Hi, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today's project is going to be using a brand new dynamic embossing folder called Ruffled. I'm really excited to showcase it today to show you the wave and the texture of the folder in today's project. I'm coupling it with the fabulous Flamingo stamp set for a really fun and simple look. Remember, you can find the cutting dimensions for today's project along with the pictures over on my blog. Go ahead and click on the I button here at the top of the YouTube screen and it will connect you directly to this blog post. Let's get over to the stamp table and let's get started. Look at that flamingo. Isn't the detail on that stamp really pretty? Really simple card with the panels. Let me show you how to put it together. Remember, if you're here viewing from YouTube, you can click on the screen. There's an I button at the top. It'll navigate you right to the blog post where the pictures, supplies, and cutting dimensions are going to be. I've used my bone folder for that nice crisp edge on my card. I'm going to set that base aside. And then I've cut myself panels that we're going to emboss. I've got 2 in white and 2 in flirty flamingo. And we're going to be using this really beautiful ruffled embossing folder. The easiest way to do this is to lay your pieces right inside the embossing folder. Now I will tell you this is one of the 3-dimensional dynamic embossing folders for a very deep impression, and Stampin' Up! Does recommend that you mist the paper to take advantage of the deepest impression possible. I've been happy with it without misting it. Then I don't have to wait for the paper to dry. That's just a Lisa thing. But you might want to give it a try both ways so that you can really experiment and see which way is your favorite. So I'm lining all these up in here, just taking a minute to do that because I find that that's a lot easier than doing them one at a time. No clear mat on the bottom. You're not going to need it because of the depth of this folder. And then lay your folder with the paper next and then a clear mat over the top. And then we're just going to crank it through. The Big Shot does all the work for you. And you can see here that we are got all of our pieces already embossed for us. Really pretty with those deep impressions with that ruffle. Let's put the panels on the card. I'm going to give you a couple tips about adhering them. So I'm going to want a white one in the center. I'm going to want a white one at the bottom, and I'm going to do my flirty flamingo at the top and then here in the middle. One of the struggles I hear people have is how do you get them symmetrical? So I'm going to give you a tip about that. I'm going to place adhesive on the back side and I'm going to start at the top. And I know that I'm going to need to leave a little bit of the border at the top and the side, but I am not pressing it down because if you press it down, then you can't lift it. The adhesive is not very forgiving. So I'm going to do that with all 3 of these panels. I'm just going to gently place it there. This way, if I need a little wiggle room, I can gently pick them up and move them around. So I've got this one here, and then we're going to do one other. When I'm happy with the way it looks, then I'm going to press it down really well to make sure that it stays that way. And then one other. I can already tell I'm a little bit off. Can you see that? All right, so I'm going to move this one down and over. And then I'm going to carefully lift this one. Very carefully. And then I'm just going to move it down a little bit to try to get equal spacing. That's pretty close. I mean, this one probably can come down a little bit, but I think that's close because we're going to put our oval image here on the top. All right, I'm going to give that a little tap, and then I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to rub from the back to secure that adhesive in place. Next thing we're going to do is work on that flamingo. So I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock scrap that I'm actually going to die cut. And I've pulled out the pieces from the fabulous Flamingo stamp set. Now the images on the outside of the packaging are not anything like the sizes on the inside. You can see how large these are. I'll be using Memento ink for the black, and I'm using Flirty Flamingo ink to correspond with that paper. And let's start with the large flamingo image. And you may look at this and think, wow, part of the body is missing. Well, this is part of 2-step stamping, and rather than explain it, I'm going to show you how it works. So I'm going to open up my Flirty Flamingo ink pad, and you're also going to see that the stamp is much larger than the ink pad. So rather than inking this way, I prefer to ink this way. This assures me that I haven't missed an area because I can manipulate the pad up and down to cover the whole image.
All right, and then once that's done, I'm going to stamp that right here in the middle. Remember, we're going to die cut it, so it doesn't have to be anywhere specific. Lots of firm, even pressure. It's a large image, and you want to make sure you press all of that out. Okay, so now we have our outline. There's another image in the stamp set that overlays the body, so you can kind of see how this is going to go. But I don't want it the same shade, because otherwise it would just blend in. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, and I am going to stamp off on my scratch paper. Lots of firm, even pressure. I want to get a nice silhouette there. And then I'm going to line this up the best that I can, and then I'm going to press. That lighter shade is going to help fill in and give this dimension. There are two images now that make up the outline. So there's the legs and the body. The next step is going to be to use the Memento ink pad and the outline images. There's one for the top of the body, and there's a separate one for the legs. So we're going to work on these independently. Let's take the Memento, and I'm going to ink that up. That just happens to be my black ink of choice when using photopolymer. I just find that it stains a lot less. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up. Aligning the neck and the head I find works the best, and then lots of firm, even pressure, and then a lift, and that's going to give us our outline. Next, we've got the legs. We're going to go ahead and ink those up as well. And I'm looking primarily around the knees, just doing the very best that I can. It's really forgiving if you don't line it up perfectly, but isn't that pretty? Now we're going to go ahead and die cut that oval shape. I've brought my magnetic platform into my Big Shot, and I have a clear mat on the bottom, and I'm going to be using the oval framelits. These are going to die cut that shape beautifully. The multi-pack of layering ovals is great, and not only do you get these, but you also get the scallops. So I'm going to go ahead and take that piece of paper that we've done our stamping on. I'm going to lay it right on top of my platform, and I'm going to line up the oval. This is the largest oval that's in the package, and you're going to notice it doesn't cut out the whole thing, but that's okay because we're going to get the majority of this image, and that's what I'm looking for. It cuts on the inside circumference, so I'm just going to do the best I can just to eye how much I want. I'm going to lay a clear mat over the top to protect the die, and then I'm going to crank it through. It is not unusual to make it all kinds of nasty sounds, and you're wondering if it's breaking. It's just the rollers going through with the clear mat. So now here we've got that oval. We're back here at the base of the card. Now on my original card, you're going to see how I've got a little bit of a black edge around here, and I want to show you how I did that. I used the Memento pad, and I actually rolled this inside the pad. So all I've done, I'm going to hold it up a little bit closer. All I've done is just taken and dragged the edges into the ink pad. And I did my best to make sure that I went just on the edge of the paper and didn't come too far forward so that too much black would be on the front of the cardstock. And then I'm going to need to let that sit and dry for just a minute. But that gives it a really nice little frame without having to do a piece of layered cardstock. While that's drying, I'm going to bring in a small piece of Whisper White cardstock. Remember, all the cutting dimensions are on my blog, so go ahead and click the I button here at the top if you're viewing from YouTube, and it'll navigate you right to this blog post. I'm going to make a banner tip. Easiest way is to do that by making a small slit in the center of the paper. By putting it in the center of the paper, it's going to ensure that both ends of your banner tip are cut nice and even. So from the corner to the top of the slit is where I'm cutting on both of those. So now we've got that. I pulled out the greeting that says "Tickled Pink for You," going back to my black ink pad, my Memento, and I'm going to stamp that right on top of that banner. A press and then a lift. Push that aside and bring that card base back in. I'm going to grab my dimensionals. I'm going to put my dimensionals on the back. I'm a fan of trying to balance these because I know it's going to have to go through a postage meter to get to its destination. And taking off that paper backing. If you're having trouble getting that backing off, press your fingernail in the center of the dimensional. That helps to lift the paper edges so you can get that paper off. That's just a little tip for you. And then this is going to get mounted to the left side of the card. So I kind of went all the way over here. And then I mounted it. And then our banner, I'm going to add a couple more dimensionals to the back side of that. And that's going to get mounted here. I went inside the center of this panel, so kind of hung over here. Now on my original card, you're going to see that I added some embellishments, and let's talk about those. Those came from the Metallics Sequins assortment, and this is just a great assortment of sequins because you get a variation of different colors: gold, silver, copper. There's even some really pretty iridescent ones in there, and of course the black. So I've pulled out 3 black ones ahead of time, and I'm using a Pick Me Up tool. Stampin' Up! Does not sell this tool yet. This one's made by Silhouette. It has a gummy tip on the end, and it's going to allow me to pick up the sequins with ease. And then I'm just going to lay them on my card. So I'm going to go ahead and just place them on here first. I always do that just for placement. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out my fine tip glue. There's a needle that stays inside the cap to make sure that it doesn't get plugged for you. I like to make sure I just clean it off a little bit. And now just with a little bit of 2 fists, I can just pick this up and decide exactly where that little bit of glue is going to be put. And literally all you need is a drop. It's a lot stronger than it looks, and it comes out rather quickly. So I find just by tapping and just gently pressing, I get just a small amount on there, and then I'm able to adhere it. And I've got one more here at the bottom, and then I'll adhere that last one here. That'll dry in under a minute, and then it's good to go. You're going to want to cap this right away because it doesn't dry out. The needle here is going to go down right inside the tip. And I find that by putting my hand there, I'm able to guide that in very easily. Okay, so that's the card today. Isn't that pretty? And that ruffled background looks really great with those feathers. So here's the card we created together. Here's the card I created before you joined me. Remember, head over to my blog, check out the pictures, supplies, and cutting dimensions. And of course, you can order all these supplies there. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great day.